The great chamber stretched wide like a metal canyon. Hundreds of beings from across the galaxy filled the curved seats that rose in circles around the central floor. Some had scales that shimmered in the blue light. Others had fur or skin in colors that Earth had never known. They spoke in languages that computers translated into sounds each species could understand. Captain Yunahan stood at the back of the human delegation area. She wore the simple gray uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps. Her dark eyes watched everything. She had learned to stay quiet and observe. That was what humans did best in this place. 5 years had passed since humanity joined the Galactic Council. 5 years of sitting in these meetings. 5 years of being ignored. At the front of the chamber, Ambassador Jiwan Park sat with her hands folded on the smooth desk. Her face showed nothing. She had perfected that expression over dozens of these sessions. Next to her sat Dr. Taemin Kang, the xenobiologist who studied alien life. He typed notes on his tablet, documenting everything he saw. High Commander Vextar rose from his seat. He was Krellian, a species that looked like they were built for war. His body stood 8 feet tall, covered in armored plates that were part of his natural skin. Forearms ending in clawed hands, eyes that glowed red in his angular face. The council wastes time again. Vextar's voice boomed through the chamber. The border systems belong to whoever has strength to take them. This is natural law. Several smaller species shifted nervously in their seats. The Krellian Empire had been growing aggressive in recent months. Their warships appeared in neutral zones more and more often. Councillor Thane stood up to respond. He was Velcarian, a species known for diplomacy and trade. His tall, thin frame and large eyes gave him a gentle appearance. High Commander, the Council exists to prevent exactly this kind of thinking. We settle disputes through discussion, not violence. Vextar laughed. The sound was like rocks grinding together. Discussion? While you talk, my people expand. While you debate, we claim what weak species cannot defend. His red eyes swept across the chamber. They landed on the human section. Like these humans. 5 years in the Council and not a single warship to their name. They vote for peace because they have no choice. They are weak. Other species murmured agreement. Some looked at the human delegation with something like pity. Others with contempt. Yuna felt her jaw tighten. Her hand wanted to curl into a fist. But she kept still. She kept watching. Ambassador Jiwan did not react at all. She simply made a note on her own tablet. The session continued for 3 more hours. The Krellians demanded access to 6 contested systems. They argued that their military strength gave them rights. Many species disagreed, but no one wanted to fight the Krellian Empire. The vote came down to diplomatic sanctions. Weak measures that everyone knew would change nothing. When asked for Earth's vote, Ambassador Jiwan stood. Earth votes for continued diplomatic engagement and peaceful resolution. Her voice was calm and clear. She sat back down. More murmurs. Some aliens shook their heads or made gestures that meant the same thing in their cultures. The humans always voted for peace. Everyone knew they had to. They had nothing else. After the session ended, Yuna walked with Dr. Taemin through the long corridors of the council station. Other species passed them, talking in clusters. No one paid the humans much attention. Did you see how Vextar positioned his secondary arms? Taemin asked quietly. That's a dominance display in Krellian culture. He was testing to see who would challenge him. No one did, Yuna replied. No one did. They reached the human quarters, a small section of the massive station. Inside, the space was functional but plain. Humans did not waste resources on decoration. They spent their budget on other things. Yuna's communication device buzzed. A coded message from Earth Command. She read it twice, then looked at Taemin. I have orders. My ship leaves in 6 hours. Where? The Krellian border. Observation duty, Taemin nodded slowly. How many ships? They're sending 12 vessels. All marked as survey ships conducting scientific research. Survey ships, Taemin repeated. A small smile crossed his face. Of course. Yuna returned to her ship, the Taguk. It was registered as a research vessel, designed to study star systems and collect data. The crew of 48 people greeted her professionally. They did not look like soldiers, but every one of them had trained at Earth's military academies. Every one of them could operate weapons systems while running complex calculations. The Taguk left the council station on a logged flight path. Destination: Scientific survey of mineral-rich asteroids near the Krellian border. Perfectly normal, perfectly boring. 3 days later, they reached their assigned position. A Krellian battle fleet passed through the system, 15 warships, each one massive and bristling with weapons. They moved in formation toward a neutral system that the Council had marked as protected. Yuna watched from her command chair. Sensors, full passive scan. I want every detail. Yes, Captain, her sensor officer replied. Logging shield frequencies, weapon signatures, engine outputs, formation patterns, and command ship location. The Krellian fleet did not even notice the small human ship. Or if they did not care. What threat could a research vessel pose? For 6 hours, the Taiguk recorded everything. When the Krellian fleet moved on, Yuna compiled the data. She encrypted it and sent it back to Earth Command through quantum channels that could not be intercepted. She knew that 11 other human ships were doing the same thing across different sectors, all of them watching, all of them recording, all of them learning. In her private quarters that night, Yuna pulled up a file on her personal tablet. It was marked Historical Reference Sun Tzu, The Art of War. She had read it many times. One passage always stood out. If you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. Humanity had been fighting wars for thousands of years before they reached the stars. They had studied strategy and tactics like other species studied art. They had learned hard lessons written in blood across centuries. But when they finally left Earth and found the galactic community, they made a choice. They chose to watch first, to learn, to understand exactly what they were dealing with before making any moves. The other species thought this made humans weak. They saw patience as cowardice. They mistook observation for inability to act. Yuna closed the file and looked out at the stars. The Krellian fleet was still out there, moving toward another system. Still confident, still convinced of their own superiority. Let them think that, she thought. Let them all think that, because every day humanity learned more. Every encounter added to the database. Every threat display and tactical maneuver got documented, analyzed, and war-gamed through 1,000 scenarios. The Krellians thought humans stayed quiet because they were afraid. They would learn the truth eventually. Humans stayed quiet because they were preparing. 3 months passed like water flowing down a river. Each day brought new reports. Each week brought new concerns. The Krellian Empire continued its expansion across the galaxy's outer regions. Lieutenant Minho Choi stood in the intelligence room of the Taiguk, surrounded by holographic displays. Each screen showed a different star system. Red markers indicated Krellian military presence. Blue markers showed human observation posts. There were a lot of blue markers now. 4 systems conquered, Minho said to the assembled intelligence team. 37 colonies now under Krellian control. Estimated civilian population affected. 14 million beings from 6 different species. The numbers were cold and clean. But behind them were real lives disrupted. Families separated, worlds occupied by foreign soldiers. Captain Yuna stood beside him, studying the tactical display. What's their pattern? They choose targets with valuable resources but weak defenses. They avoid systems protected by major council fleets. They move fast, establish control, then dare anyone to take the territory back. Minho pulled up another screen. But here's what's interesting. They're getting sloppy. Sloppy how? Their formations don't change much. Same attack patterns. Same ship deployments. They've won every engagement so far, so they see no reason to adapt. Yuna nodded slowly. Overconfidence. Yes, Captain. They think they've already figured out the best way to fight. In the engineering section, Sora Lee worked on a new sensor array. She was young for a chief engineer, only 28. But her talent for understanding alien technology was remarkable. She could look at a Krellian shield generator and see not just what it did, but how it did it, and more importantly, how it could be beaten. The Krellians use a rotating frequency shield, she explained to her assistant. It cycles through 7 different wavelengths to deflect various types of weapons. Very effective against most Council military technology. But not against ours? Her assistant asked. Sora smiled. We don't have weapons yet. We're still just observing. But if we did have weapons, we would probably design them to predict and match those frequency rotations. Just theoretically speaking, of course. Her assistant smiled back. Everyone on the human ships knew they were doing more than simple observations. They were preparing for a war they all hoped would never come. But hope was not a strategy. Preparation was. Far from the military observation posts, civilian life continued. Hyeji Kim ran a small trading ship called the Morning Star. She carried goods between systems, mostly food supplies and manufactured items. Trade was good for humans. They were still new to the galactic economy, so they worked hard to build relationships. Hyeji's ship entered the Talvon system, which had been Krellian occupied for 2 months. She had authorization papers. Her cargo was registered. Everything was legal. A Krellian patrol ship intercepted her anyway. Human vessel. Cut your engines and prepare for boarding. The command came through her communications system. Hyeji did exactly as ordered. 6 Krellian soldiers came onto her ship. They searched the cargo hold, checked her computer systems, and questioned her for 3 hours. "Why do humans come to our territory?" the patrol commander asked. He loomed over her, using his height to intimidate. "Trade, sir," Hyeji replied calmly. "The Talvon colonies need food supplies. I have what they need. You could be a spy. I'm a trader. You can check my entire history. I've been running this route for 2 years. The commander studied her with those red, glowing eyes. Finally, he made a dismissive gesture. "Humans are too weak to be spies. Too stupid to be threats. Go, deliver your food." Hyeji bowed her head respectfully. She waited until the Krellians left her ship. She waited until they were a safe distance away. Then she activated a small device hidden in her captain's chair. For the past 3 hours while being questioned, that device had been recording everything. Krellian security protocols, boarding procedures, ship interior layouts, patrol patterns, everything. She encrypted the data and sent it through secure channels back to Earth's intelligence network. Then she went about her delivery as if nothing had happened. Just another harmless human trader. Nothing to worry about. Back at the council station, Ambassador Jiwan sat through another emergency session. The smaller species were frightened now. The Krellian expansion threatened everyone. "Earth must take a position," Councillor Thane insisted. "You cannot stay neutral forever. The Krellians will come for your systems eventually." Jiwan's expression remained calm. "Earth is studying the situation carefully. We are gathering all necessary information before we act." "Studying?" Vextar's voice boomed from across the chamber. "You have been studying for months." "This is just another word for doing nothing, for being too scared to fight." Many species nodded agreement. Even the ones who liked humans thought Earth was being too passive. "Too careful, too weak. We will act when we are ready," Jiwan said simply. She would not be provoked into saying more. After the session, she returned to the human quarters. Dr. Taman was waiting with his latest report. "The Krellian psychology is fascinating," Taman said, pulling up his research. "They evolved on a world with massive predators. Strength and aggression were necessary for survival. They respect power and nothing else. Showing restraint or patience in their culture means you are prey. So they genuinely believe we are weak," Jiwan said. "Yes. They cannot imagine that anyone would choose not to fight if they were capable of fighting. It's outside their worldview." Jiwan considered this. "That's a significant blind spot. Very significant." On Earth, far from the galactic politics, Admiral Seoknam sat in a secure bunker beneath Sol. Holographic displays surrounded him, showing real-time data from every human ship in space. Intelligence reports flowed in constantly. His staff consisted of 40 senior officers, each one a specialist in different types of warfare. They had been working 16-hour days for 3 months. "Strategic assessment," Seok said to his chief of staff. "We have complete tactical profiles on 87% of the Krellian fleet. We know their communication protocols, their supply lines, their command structure, and their standard operational procedures. We have identified 43 critical vulnerabilities in their military doctrine. Weaponry comparison? Their weapons are more powerful than ours individually, but they rely on overwhelming force rather than precision. We can outmaneuver them in most scenarios. Fleet readiness? All 32 combat vessels are on standby. They maintain their cover as research and trade ships, but they can be combat ready in less than 4 hours." Admiral Seok nodded. He looked at the galactic map, showing the spread of Krellian conquests. "Red zones growing larger week by week. How many scenarios have we run?" he asked. 47 complete simulations, including worst-case and best-case outcomes. We have tactical responses prepared for every likely situation. And the casualties? The chief of staff hesitated. In most scenarios, if we execute properly, Human casualties remain minimal. Krellian casualties would be severe. They are not prepared for the type of warfare we would bring. Siok stared at the map for a long time. He had fought in Earth's last major conflict, the Resource Wars of 2189. He knew what war cost. He knew what it did to people, to families, to entire societies. Let's hope we never have to use these plans, he said quietly. Yes, sir. But even as he said it, new intelligence came through. The Krellian Empire had announced its next target. They were moving against the Valkyrian homeworld. The diplomatic species who had been calling for peace would be the next to fall. The Valkyrians had the Council's most powerful defensive fleet. If the Krellians attacked them, it would mean full-scale war. Admiral Siok looked at the timeline. The Krellian fleet would reach Valkyrian space in 2 weeks. He began issuing orders. Quiet orders, coded messages sent to ships scattered across the galaxy, to trade vessels and survey ships and research platforms. All of them received the same basic instruction. Begin convergence protocols. Prepare for possible combat operations, still quiet, still watching, still learning, but now finally preparing to act. The Valkyrian system blazed with weapons fire. Ships the size of cities exchanged devastating attacks across the black void of space. The Council's defensive fleet had 50 warships, built by a dozen different species, each one a masterwork of military engineering. They were losing Counselor. Thane watched from the command center on Valkyrian Prime. His three-fingered hands gripped the railing as another Council ship exploded in a burst of white light. The Krellian battle fleet numbered only 37 vessels, but they fought with precision that came from constant warfare. How long until reinforcements arrive? Thane asked his military coordinator. The nearest Council fleet is 6 days away. We'll be overrun in less than 2 days at this rate. Thane closed his large eyes. His homeworld, his people, everything he had worked for was about to be crushed under Krellian boots. Send the distress call, he said, galaxy-wide. Let everyone see what happens when diplomatic species face military ones. The message went out on all frequencies, a desperate plea for help. Most species received it and did nothing. They could not reach the Valkyrian system in time. Others did not want to risk war with the Krellians, but one species answered immediately. On the Teguk, Captain Yuna received the transmission along with new orders from Earth Command. She read them twice, then called her senior staff to the bridge. We have authorization, she said simply. Lieutenant Minho understood instantly. He had been waiting for these words for months. Full authorization? Yes, rules of engagement are unrestricted. Objective, complete neutralization of hostile forces. Her crew exchanged glances. Some showed relief. Others showed grim determination. All of them had trained for this moment. Set course for Valkyrian space, Yuna ordered. Maximum speed. Battle stations, the Teguk changed. Panels that looked like scientific equipment slid away, revealing weapon systems. The sensor array that had been studying asteroids locked onto combat targeting. The research vessel became a warship in less than 10 minutes, and the Teguk was not alone. Across the galaxy, 31 other human ships received the same orders. Ships that had been quietly observing, trading, surveying. All of them moved at once, all of them converging on a single point. The Krellian fleet had no idea what was coming. High Commander Vextar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dominator. Around him, his officers coordinated the assault on Valkyrian Prime. The Council ships fought bravely, but bravery meant nothing without strength. Another Council cruiser destroyed, his tactical officer reported. Their defensive line is collapsing. Good, Vextar replied. Once we control this system, the Council will know we are the true power in this galaxy. Not their committees and votes. Strength. That is all that matters. Sir, sensors are detecting new contacts. Multiple ships entering the system. More Council reinforcements? Destroy them. Sir, these ships are not broadcasting Council signatures. They are human vessels. Vextar turned sharply. Humans, how many? 32 ships, sir. Small to medium class. They appear to be research vessels and trade ships. Vextar laughed. Research vessels? The humans think they can fight us with cargo ships? This is not even worth our attention. Continue the assault on the Valkyrians. But his tactical officer's face showed confusion. Sir, the human ships are not behaving like civilian vessels. Their formation is highly coordinated. They are moving at combat speeds. Let them come. We will swat them aside like insects. The human fleet entered weapons range. Pilot Dae-hyun-oh led the fighter squadron from the carrier ship Everest. His 12 fighters launched in perfect synchronization. They were small craft, built for speed and maneuverability rather than heavy armor. "This is wing leader to all fighters," Dae-hyun spoke calmly into his communication system. "Execute pattern Delta 7. Target their command ship's sensor arrays first." The fighters split into 3 groups. They accelerated to speeds that would have crushed most alien species with the force of gravity. Humans had evolved on a world with stronger gravity than most inhabited planets. They could handle forces that would kill others. Dae-hyun's fighter screamed past the Dominator, firing precisely targeted shots at the massive ship's sensor domes. The Krellian shields absorbed some damage, but the fighters were too fast, too small, and attacking from angles the Krellians had not anticipated. "What are they doing?" Vextar demanded. "Those ships are too small to damage us. Sir, they are not trying to damage the hull. They are targeting specific systems. Our forward sensors are offline. Our targeting computers are being disrupted." The main human fleet opened fire. Their weapons were not as individually powerful as Krellian guns, but they fired with impossible precision. Every shot aimed at a specific weakness: shield generators, engine ports, communication arrays. Captain Yuna watched the tactical display from the Taeguk's bridge. 3 months of observation, 3 months of learning every detail of Krellian ship design. Now it all paid off. "Target the flagship's shield generator cluster portside, Section 7, she ordered. "Fire!" The Taeguk's weapon struck exactly where intended. The Krellian shields flickered and failed in that section. 2 other human ships immediately fired at the exposed hull. Explosions ripped across the Dominator's side. "Shields down on port side," a Krellian officer shouted. How did they know where to hit us? Vextar stared at the display in disbelief. The human ships moved like they knew every Krellian tactic. They anticipated every maneuver. When Krellian ships moved to engage, the humans were already out of position, striking from a new angle. The battle lasted 6 hours. In that time, the Krellian fleet learned what war truly meant. They learned that power was not just about having big weapons. It was about knowing when and where to use them. The human ships coordinated like a single organism. When one ship drew fire, others struck from different angles. When Krellians tried to form defensive formations, humans broke them with tactics the Krellians had never seen. Dr. Taman had prepared biological countermeasures. When Krellian ships tried to use their toxic waste as a weapon, human ships already had filters that neutralized the toxins. When Krellians attempted communication jamming, humans switched to quantum-encrypted channels that could not be blocked. Every trick the Krellians tried had been anticipated. Every tactic had been countered before it was even used. Admiral Seok Nam coordinated from Earth Command, watching through real-time data feeds. He spoke calmly to his fleet commanders scattered across the battle space. Taeguk maintained pressure on the flagship. "Everest, your fighters need to disable their communications completely. Ranger, move to protect the council ships. Show them we are not here to replace one conqueror with another." The orders flowed smooth and precise, 32 ships acting as one. By hour 5, 12 Krellian warships were destroyed or disabled. The rest were in retreat, trying desperately to escape. But the humans had positioned ships at every exit point from the system. There was no escape route that had not been planned for. The Dominator, crippled and burning, finally stopped fighting. Vextar stared at his ruined bridge. Half his crew was dead or injured. His mighty flagship was a broken wreck. "How?" he whispered. "How did weak humans do this?" A communication came through. Captain Yuna's face appeared on his view screen. She looked at him with calm eyes. "You are ordered to surrender your vessel and all remaining ships," she said. "Any attempt to continue fighting will result in your complete destruction." "You are supposed to be weak," Vextar said. "We studied you. You have no military tradition. You have no warrior culture." Yuna's expression did not change. "We were never weak, Commander. We were learning. For 3 months we watched you fight. We studied every battle. We analyzed every tactic. We prepared for every scenario. You thought we stayed quiet because we were afraid. We stayed quiet because we were patient." Patient, Vextar repeated the word like it was foreign to him. "Surrender now. Your crew does not have to die for your mistakes." Vextar looked around his destroyed bridge, at his surviving officers, at the display showing his fleet in ruins. He had been so certain, so confident in his strength. He had never considered that someone might be stronger. "I surrender," he said. Across the Valkyrian system, the surviving Krellian ships lowered their shields and powered down their weapons. The human fleet maintained defensive positions, weapons ready, but did not fire. On Valkyrian Prime, Counselor Thane watched in stunned silence. His world was saved. But more than that, he had witnessed something that would change the galaxy forever. Humanity had shown its teeth, and they were very, very sharp. The captured Krellian flagship floated in space like a dead whale. Human repair crews worked on the damaged sections, saving what crew members they could. Medical teams treated the wounded without discrimination. Enemy or not, injured beings deserved care. Admiral Seok Nam arrived 3 days after the battle. His ship, the Indomitable, docked with the Dominator. He walked through the corridors of the captured vessel with Captain Yuna at his side. Krellian crew members watched them pass with expressions that mixed fear and confusion. They reached what had been Vexitar's command center. The High Commander sat in a simple chair, no longer the proud warrior. He was not restrained. The humans did not need restraints. Where would he run? "High Commander," Seok said, sitting across from him. "I want to show you something." He activated a holographic display. Data streams filled the air. Ship movements, tactical analyses, sensor readings, thousands of hours of compiled information. "This is what we have been doing for 5 years, Seok explained. "Since the day we joined the Galactic Council, we have been watching, learning, understanding." Vextar stared at the data. He saw his own fleet's movements tracked across months, every battle documented, every tactic analyzed, every weakness identified. "You knew everything," he said slowly. "Yes. We watched you fight the Talran colonies. We watched you conquer the Milvan system. We watched you crush the Borean resistance. Every engagement taught us more about how you fight, how you think, how you make decisions in combat. But why? If you had this capability, why did you not act sooner? Why did you let us conquer those worlds?" Seok's expression became grave. "Because we hoped we would not need to fight at all. War is not something humans enter lightly, Commander. We know what it costs. We have paid those costs for thousands of years." He pulled up another display. This one showed Earth's history. Battles and conflicts spanning millennia, the 100 Years' War, the World Wars, conflicts in every era on every continent. Humans have been fighting wars since before we understood what stars were. Seok continued. "We perfected strategy and tactics through blood and loss. We studied the art of war because we had to. Our world taught us that survival meant being smarter than our enemies, not just stronger." Vextar looked at the historical records. So much warfare, so much death. And yet you presented yourselves as peaceful. We are peaceful, by choice, because we know the alternative too well. At the Galactic Council, an emergency session had been called. Every species sent representatives. The chamber buzzed with conversation. Some species expressed relief. Others showed concern. A few showed fear. Ambassador Jiwan stood at the central podium. Behind her, a massive display screen activated. Dr. Taman stood ready to present his findings. "Members of the Council," Jiwan began. "For 5 years, humanity has maintained a quiet presence in this assembly. Many of you concluded this meant we were weak. Some of you even stated this openly. Today, I want to explain why you were wrong." The chamber fell silent. Dr. Taman Kang will now present his research on human evolutionary development. Taman stepped forward. The display showed Earth rotating in space, a blue and green world that looked peaceful from orbit. "Earth is what we call a death world," Taman began. "The gravity is higher than most inhabited planets. The weather patterns are extreme. The native life evolved through constant competition for resources. Predators that hunted in packs, prey that ran for days to escape, diseases that killed millions, ice ages that covered continents." The display showed images. Massive predators with teeth like knives, environments that shifted from frozen tundra to burning desert, natural disasters that could destroy entire regions. "Humans evolved in this environment," Taman continued. "We survived not by being the strongest or the fastest. We survived by being smart, by working together, by planning ahead. We hunted animals faster and stronger than us by tracking them for days until they collapsed from exhaustion. We call it persistence hunting." A video played showing ancient humans following a deer across endless plains. Hour after hour, the deer ran until it could run no more. The humans simply walked, never stopping until their prey had no strength left. This shaped how humans think, Taman explained. We do not need to win quickly. We can outlast our opponents. We can study them, learn their patterns, and wait for the right moment to strike. Counselor Thane stood up. But you are peaceful. You voted against every military action. You seem to prefer diplomacy to force. Jiwan took over again. We prefer diplomacy because we have seen where military action leads. Let me show you. The screen changed to show Earth's wars. Not the glorious battles, but the consequences. Cities destroyed. Populations devastated. Children orphaned. Families torn apart. These are our history, Jiwan said softly. Every human knows these images. We teach them to our children not to glorify war, but to remember its cost. We learned over thousands of years that war should always be the last option, never the first. She pulled up new data. But we also learned something else. We learned that if you must fight, you fight with everything you have. You prepare completely. You understand your enemy better than they understand themselves. You strike with precision that ends the conflict quickly and minimizes suffering. The display showed the battle at Valkyrian space, how human ships moved, how they coordinated, how they struck exactly where the Krellians were weakest. Every human ship captain studies strategy, Jiwan continued. Every human child learns game theory in school. Every human soldier trains not just in combat but in tactical thinking, in understanding psychology and anticipating enemy actions. She looked around the chamber. Many of you evolved on paradise worlds, worlds where food was plentiful and predators were few. You developed advanced civilizations because you had the luxury of time and peace. This shaped how you think, how you approach conflict. Humans did not have that luxury. We fought for every advantage. We developed strategic thinking, not as an academic exercise but as a survival necessity. And when we finally left Earth and found this galactic community, we made a choice. The display showed the day humanity joined the Council, 5 years ago. We chose to be peaceful, not because we were incapable of violence, but because we understood violence too well. We sat quietly in these chambers and let others mock us as weak. We accepted this because we hoped, truly hoped, that we would never need to show what we were capable of. Silence filled the chamber. Every species absorbed what they were hearing. But we were not idle during those 5 years, Jiwan said. We were learning about all of you. We ran simulations of theoretical conflicts with every major military power in the galaxy, not because we wanted to fight, but because preparation is how humans think. We study every possibility. We plan for every scenario. A Krellian representative, one who had not been at the battle, stood up. This sounds like you were planning to conquer us all along. No, Jiwan said firmly. If we wanted to conquer, we would have acted years ago. We had the capability. We had the knowledge, but we had no desire. We came to the stars hoping to find friends, to learn from species who had solved problems we still struggled with, to grow beyond our violent past. She paused. But we also knew we might find threats. So we prepared, because that is what humans do. We hope for peace but prepare for war. Vextar's face appeared on the display. He was broadcasting from his captured flagship. The proud commander now looked tired and humbled. I thought humans were weak, he said. I thought your patience was fear. Your silence was submission. I was wrong. Humans are perhaps the most dangerous species in this galaxy. Not because of your weapons, but because you think in ways we cannot comprehend. You fight wars in your minds long before they happen. By the time you engage in battle, you have already won. He looked directly at the camera. I attacked the Valkyrians because I thought no one could stop me. I was defeated in 6 hours by a species I had dismissed as harmless. I am here to tell every species in this council, do not make my mistake. Humans are not weak. They are simply patient. And when they stop being patient, they are unstoppable. The broadcast ended. The chamber remained silent for a long moment. Finally, an elder representative from the Telkani species stood. She was one of the oldest members of the council, representing a species that had been spacefaring for 12,000 years. I have lived a long time, she said. I have seen many species rise and fall. I have seen conquerors and peacemakers. But I have never seen a species like humanity, a species that chooses restraint from a position of strength. This is wisdom that many species never learn. She looked at Jiwan. I propose that humanity be granted a permanent seat on the Security Council. They have proven they will defend the weak. More importantly, they have proven they will not abuse their power. The vote was called. It was unanimous. Every species, even the Krellians, voted yes. Humanity would no longer be the quiet observers sitting in the back. They were now guardians of galactic peace, not because they sought power, but because they had proven they could be trusted with it. 1 year had passed since the Battle of Valkyrian space. The galaxy looked different now. Borders were stable. Trade routes were secure. Small conflicts still happened, but they were resolved quickly, often before they could escalate into violence. Ambassador Jiwan walked through the council station's main corridor. Other species nodded respectfully as she passed. Some even stopped to thank her. The Valkyrian ambassador had sent flowers every month for a year. The gesture was touching. She reached the Security Council chamber, a smaller room reserved for the galaxy's peacekeeping leadership. 12 species had permanent seats here now. Humanity was the newest member. Ambassador Jiwan, Councillor Thane greeted her warmly. Thank you for coming. We have a situation developing near the Corvin sector. What kind of situation? 2 species claiming the same mining rights. Tensions are rising. Their military fleets are moving into the disputed zone. Jiwan sat down and reviewed the data. Have they agreed to mediation? Not yet. Both sides think they can win if it comes to conflict. Send them our analysis, Jiwan said calmly. Show them what their conflict would actually look like. Casualties, economic costs, long-term consequences. Make it clear that war is expensive in ways they have not considered. And if they still refuse mediation, then I will send Captain Yuna with a peacekeeping force. Not to fight, but to observe. Somehow, when human ships are watching, species become much more willing to negotiate. Thane smiled slightly. The human's reputation precedes them now. That is the point. We do not want to fight. We want others to realize fighting is not in their interest. Far across the galaxy, Captain Yuna commanded a new ship. The Harmony was larger than the Taeguk, designed specifically for peacekeeping operations. It carried a mixed crew from 7 different species, all trained in human tactical doctrine. Captain, we are approaching the disputed zone, her first officer reported. He was Valkyrian, one of the first aliens to request transfer to a human ship. Any sign of military buildup? Yes, ma'am. Both fleets are in position. Weapon systems are powered but not locked on. Standard observation protocol. Position us between the 2 fleets. Maximum sensor visibility. Make sure both sides know we are watching and recording everything. The Harmony moved into position. Its presence changed the dynamic immediately. Both fleets received the same message. This is the peacekeeping vessel Harmony. We are here to observe and document all activities in this zone. We encourage both parties to pursue diplomatic resolution. On the bridge, Ensign Borum Song monitored communications. She was young, only 23, fresh from the academy. This was her first assignment. Captain, both fleets are requesting clarification. They want to know if we will intervene if fighting starts. I tell them we are here to observe, but make sure they understand that all data we collect will be presented to the Security Council. Any species that starts a war will be held accountable. Borum sent the message. She watched as both fleets hesitated. Either side wanted to be known as the aggressor, especially with human ships watching and recording. Captain, why does our presence stop them from fighting? Borum asked later during a quiet moment. We are only one ship, Yuna smiled. Because they remember what happened to the Krellians. They know that if they start a war, humanity will have complete records of who fired first, what tactics they used, and how they can be defeated. We are not here to fight. We are here to make fighting seem like a bad idea. So we prevent wars just by watching, sometimes. Other times we have to do more. But watching is where it always starts. Information is our greatest weapon. In another sector, Dr. Taman ran an interspecies cooperation program. Scientists from dozens of worlds worked together in research stations, studying everything from quantum mechanics to biological diversity. But Taman's real work was more subtle. He taught species to understand each other, to see how different evolutionary paths created different ways of thinking. The Krellians are not evil, he explained to a class of young researchers from various worlds. They evolved in an environment where aggression was necessary. Their psychology reflects that. Understanding this does not excuse their actions, but it helps us work with them to change. A student asked, "Can they change?" Everyone can change, but it takes time and patience. Humans learned this slowly. We fought wars for thousands of years before we started to understand that there might be better ways. In the class sat a young Krellian student named Varen. He had been born after the Battle of Valkyrian space. He was part of a new generation growing up in a galaxy shaped by human philosophy. My father fought in that battle, Varen said. He was on one of the ships that surrendered. He tells me he was ashamed at first, defeated by species he thought were weak. But now he says humanity taught him something important. That strength is not just about physical power. Taman nodded. What does he think strength is now? Knowing when not to fight. Having the power to destroy but choosing to build instead. That is a hard lesson for anyone to learn. I'm glad your father learned it. On Earth, Admiral Siak sat in his office overlooking the Pacific Ocean. The water stretched to the horizon, peaceful and vast. He was reviewing reports from across the galaxy. Peacekeeping operations, diplomatic successes, training programs. His assistant brought him a classified file. Sir, the deep space monitoring stations have detected something unusual. What kind of unusual? Signals from beyond the galactic rim. They do not match any known species. The pattern suggests organized communication. Siak felt a familiar weight settle on his shoulders. A new unknown. A potential threat. Or perhaps a potential friend. How long until we can determine the source? Several months at least. The signals are very far away. Begin observation protocols. I want every available sensor pointed at that region. Compile all data. Start analysis of the signal patterns. If this is a new species, I want to understand them before they understand us. Yes, sir. Should we inform the council? Not yet. Let's learn what we are dealing with first. His assistant left. Seok stared at the ocean, thinking about what might be coming. Another test. Another challenge. But humanity had faced challenges before. Back at the council station, Jiwon received the same information in a coded message. She read it twice, then deleted it. Only a few humans knew about the signals. Only a few needed to know. She thought about Vextar, who now worked as a consultant teaching other species about human strategic methods. He had asked her once why humans were so careful, why they watched so long before acting. Because we have made too many mistakes in our history, she had told him. We have rushed into wars we did not understand. We have fought enemies we should have befriended. We learned slowly and painfully that patience saves more lives than haste. And if patience fails, he had asked, then we act with everything we have. But we make sure patience has truly failed first. Now, looking at the report about unknown signals, Jiwon applied that same philosophy. Watch first, learn, understand, only act when necessary. Captain Yuna's voice came through the communication system. Ambassador, the disputed mining rights situation has been resolved. Both parties agreed to shared development. No shots fired. Excellent work, Captain. Ma'am, do you ever think about what would have happened if we had revealed our capabilities earlier? If we had shown our strength from the beginning? Jiwon considered the question carefully. Some species would have respected us. Others would have feared us. But most would have seen us as just another military power to compete with or oppose. By staying quiet, by watching and learning, we showed that we valued peace over power. When we finally did act, species understood we were defending the weak, not seeking conquest. So our silence was a strategic choice. Everything is a strategic choice, Captain. Even choosing not to act is an action with consequences. Humans learn to think several moves ahead. That is what makes us different. In the Security Council chamber, a junior representative from a small species approached Jiwon nervously. Ambassador, my people call humanity the Quiet Guardians now. They say you watch over the galaxy without demanding tribute or territory. Is this true? Jiwon smiled softly. We do not guard alone. Every species in the council shares responsibility for peace. But yes, humans watch carefully. We monitor situations. We prepare for problems before they become crises. Some call this guardianship. We call it being responsible neighbors. My people want to learn your methods. Can you teach us? Of course. That is why we are here. Not to rule, but to share what we have learned. Come to our training programs. Study our history, both our successes and our terrible mistakes. Learn how we think. Then adapt it to your own culture and needs. That night, Jiwon stood at the observation window in her quarters. The stars stretched endlessly in all directions. Somewhere out there, unknown signals pulsed through the void. A mystery, a potential threat, but humanity would do what humanity did best. They would watch. They would listen. They would learn everything possible about these newcomers before making any moves, and if those newcomers proved hostile, they would find what the Krellians had found. that the quiet species watching from the shadows was not weak, not helpless. Not pre-humanity had come to the stars hoping for peace. They had found a galaxy that needed teaching about what peace truly meant. Not the absence of war,